Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining us here at Journey Home Meditation for the Morning Sit. I am Michael. I'm going to be taking us through some contemplation. We'll share a little breathing, and probably we'll get to a poem or two today. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. So let's just begin with a few breaths today. Sometimes it's really easy to forget taking the pause. And I think it's important. That we gather ourselves in such a way that we can show up fully present. So to begin this morning, I'm just going to bring myself into a posture that helps to facilitate breath, elongating the spine, bringing the shoulders slightly together in the back to open the heart and open the chest, and breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Just 3 simple breaths. You know, some of my teachers have been very well practiced at taking the pause. And I think that in the time that I remember, when I'm asked a question or when I'm confronted with something that might be a problem, or even if I'm just going to sit down with a friend and just be, just have that time to either share discussion or sit in silence. Taking those 3 breaths allows me that space to let go of whatever I might be carrying in to this relationship in this moment. And that's really important if we are wanting to, or not even wanting to. It's very important if we are to engage with what is in front of us in an unbiased and undistracted way. So I'm going to use this time as a reminder, even when I'm sitting facing a screen, talking into a microphone, take those breaths before we begin. And one of the other effects of that is it gives us the tabula rasa, the clean slate. It's cleaned my mind clear out. So now I forget what it was that I was wanting to share this morning as a contemplation. And that's probably a good thing, because sometimes it's a good thing. I wanted to get into a poem this morning, and it goes along, actually, serendipitously with this idea. of finding that quiet space, that moment of quieting the mind and not bringing with it all of the humming and buzzing of our thoughts, right? It's interesting if you look through eras, the metaphors that we use to describe our bodies. We say things like the heart is a pump, right? Uh, Obviously, this probably is something that came into expression when we started developing pumps in the industrial era, steam pumps, pumps similar to windmills, all these kind of things. The learning the notion once we started getting into opening up the heart in medical science, and trying to figure out what our bodies are doing and made of, making that comparison made sense to the mind of a person who lives with industry. And then now we say things like, well, the brain is a computer. Well, that wouldn't have been said, 200 years ago. Nobody would have known what the heck you were talking about. But now we have these computers, this externalized thing, this thing we've created, and we personify that thing by also separating out the parts of who we are and mechanizing them. So the heart is a pump, the brain is a machine. Um, these ideas can take us into this notion that we have one simple, like this is a process, this is a process, this is a process. And it forgets that parts of us are just as they are. Parts of us are parts of the whole of us. And I think that to reduce the brain to a computer or the heart to a pump is to sadly make utilitarian that which is here as an expression of spirit or an expression of life. It's not just here to be used and utilized for purposes. Here's a poem. This is Windleberry, and this is a newer collection that just came out, I think maybe last year. It's a collection of his Sabbath poems. It's called This Day, collected in new Sabbath poems. Windleberry is definitely one of those poet teachers that I find great solace in reading. And these poems are poems he writes on the Sabbath every week. These are his prayers. And this one is from 2001. Ask the world to reveal its quietude. Not the silence of machines when they are still, but the true quiet by which bird songs, trees, bellworts, snails, clouds, storms become what they are and are nothing else. And it's a simple poem. It's 5 lines. And it's a really solid reminder that we are what we are and nothing else. We're not here just for purposes. We're not here to fit an agenda. None of us, none of these things, none of these people, none of these persons, none of these ideas. Those are all just ways that we categorize ourselves and place ourselves. This is the way that we, reduce to understand. When something is very complex, we have to reduce it sometimes to understand or grasp even a simple way to identify with it. And it's a good practice for me to take those breaths and remember, I'm not here for this agenda. So those breaths in the beginning of this morning sit is to remind me even that I'm not here because of the recording or the microphone. I'm not here as any role. Simply here. You're simply there. And anything else is just part of the game. It's part of the game that we're playing, the Leela, the play that we're all assigning roles in. And that's okay too. It's not that that's pejoratively spoken. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. The ways that we have developed this game of connecting and ebbing and flowing and understanding and misunderstanding one another. Those are all beautiful things, but inevitably, and there is an opportunity that we always have right there to just step back and recall none of those things. You're none of those things. Hmm. Angela and I were speaking last night, brainstorming for uh, an event that's coming up, and we were talking about sort of ways of communicating how to understand death uh, in a different way. Maybe how to uncloak death from this shroud of darkness or fear. And it's a difficult thing because there's a lot of hubris in trying to change that. I think we've got such a long and solid tradition of fearing death and or romanticizing it, making it this really big deal in either way. And in a lot of ways, of course, it is a big deal, but it seems to be a much bigger deal when others die than it is for our own death. Um, there's something that's happening there that is difficult to reduce for our understanding. This, you can't really make that type of experience bite size loss. Um, and I think it's even even if I can understand the spiritual teachings, I don't want to disregard the very human feelings that are happening in the moment, very material feelings, the roles that we are assigning for the play. I don't want to discount that. I don't want to shortchange that experience. It doesn't mean I have to full tilt boogie believe those experiences. I don't have to buy into it or invest into those experiences any more than I need in the moment. But and that sounds confusing. I'm hearing it coming out of my mouth, and I'm going, "What are you talking about?" But I guess what I'm saying is, just because I can have an understanding of a deeper existence doesn't mean that the surface experience is invalid, right? Just because I know that some foods bring me some nutrients and I can understand what's happening on a metabolic level in my body doesn't mean that the taste isn't important. The taste is important. I I find the taste to be important. And as such, I find the surface understandings and feelings and experiences on this level of existence, this level where I'm seeing you, you're seeing me, we're interacting. I find that to be important. I think we're here for there's a reason that we're here doing that. I don't know what the reason is, and I don't even know if it's a worthy pursuit to find that reason, but I think that I don't want to discount it. I don't want to write it off as somehow not being valid. And I want to understand that on multiple levels simultaneously, we are experiencing all of these different ways of being. So, on one level, I'm experiencing sorrow, I'm experiencing loss, I'm experiencing pain. But after the machineries of that existence go quiet, then there's these other levels that start to rise up. These other levels, these quieter levels, these subtle levels that can be gotten to, where we can come to a different understanding and a different relationship. So now we have more than one understanding. It's not that one understanding gets rid of the other. It's not that when I come to understand that I am built of that which is dying, that you are dying, that everything is dying and going away, it doesn't mean that that understanding somehow cancels out the experience of what it means, what it feels like, what it does to us in our existence right now when I am dying and you are dying. One doesn't cancel the other. We have this notion that because I think maybe the way we've patterned school, that you graduate and graduate and graduate, it's like that verse from the Bible, when I was a child, I played with childish things. Then I became a man and I put away childish things. Well, here's the reality is I sit with a bunch of people all the time who are adults that there is no way to say that they are not built of the childish things. I am built of the childish things as well. When I'm sitting with you in any moment, 8-year-old me is sitting with you. 14-year-old me is sitting with you. 2-year-old me, in utero me, is sitting with in utero you. It's a really bizarre thing to think about, but we carry those things with us. This is what we carry. Just because we have moved into something different doesn't mean we aren't carrying what was. And so as we approach things like the big things, what we call the big things, like death, birth, these things that are so grandiose that it's hard not to reduce them just to understand them. I think it's important to remember, as I'm coming into my understanding on a different level of what it means to die, that maybe what's happening is the spirit is being liberated from the confines of the material existence, where I have conditional love for someone, conditional based upon having a body. I love you in your body. That's my condition. To be able to go, I love you even though you're not there. You that I love is not in that body any longer, and I still love you. That deeper understanding of my love does not negate that I loved you in your body, that I loved the way that my body felt when I was in your presence. It doesn't take away that I loved the way that we could hold one another, or knowing that when your body came into the room, my body felt at ease. Doesn't take those things away. Doesn't change it at all. And I don't think there's a need to. If we are dwelling on these things and we are stuck only feeling love when the body is there, then yeah, we have work to do. But that's part of what it is to be alive, is to have that work to do, to be able to open the pathways between all of the different layers of existence. Does not close the other pathways, right? It doesn't close the other layers off. So when I hear that poem by Wendell Berry, that's what it reminds me of. I want to just give it one more quick read. Ask the world to reveal its quietude, not the silence of machines when they are still, but the true quiet by which bird songs, trees, bellworts, snails, clouds, storms become what they are and nothing else. Ask the world to reveal its quietude. So as we experience these rumbling of the machinery of thought and sorrow, pain, suffering, really that's what we're talking about here. I don't know if Wendell intended the metaphor, but it seems to me that the metaphor of the machinery is the metaphor of suffering. This is the ongoing machinery of suffering, right? And when that quiets down, things can be as they are. And I think that there's something there for me when I'm indulging in my sorrow. And when I say that, I don't mean it to be to sound as if to be sorrowful is to be in. Okay, I'm not going to say what it's not. I'll say what it is. Like, for me, indulging in my sorrow means that I am taking that time and that space to be sorrowful, and that's okay. There's levels of joy to be found in sorrow at times, because sometimes sorrow is the name for the only thing we have in the moment by which we love. Sometimes that's what love feels like, and I like to love. I love to love. So when it's love is only going to come out of sorrow, then I indulge in sorrow. But that said, I don't want to be stuck. I want to be able to indulge in sorrow as the voice of love, but then move into other feelings of love. And I can move back into sorrow. I can move all through them. This isn't a linear progress, right? When we talk about the stages of grief or the stages of death, it's funny that when Elizabeth Kubler-Ross first conceived those stages, denial, anger, bartering, all those things, she was talking about the process of dying, the psychological processes by which we understand our death, our dying. But it's been transposed over into grief, how we grieve. And now people want to assign places on the map for grief. Well, I think I'm through this stage and this stage, so I'm in this stage now, and then 2 more stages, and then I graduate. I get my grief diploma, and I don't have to feel that anymore. It's not the way it works. It's just not the way it works. I'm not saying somebody's wrong or right. I'm just saying simply that's not the way I've ever seen it work. Right? These are all presences of being, and they all overlap. They all overlap in our grieving, and we go through all of them. And sometimes we're feeling multiple things at once. Sometimes we're in one place explicitly, but we don't want to be stuck, because there's all these opportunities. There's all these opportunities for the ways in which our love can be communicated. Sorrow is just one of them. And it's important for me to remember that. And 3 breaths help with that for me. Sometimes it takes 4. Sometimes it takes 2. And when I get really honest, sometimes it takes every breath I have. So let's share some breaths together. I'm going to bring in the sound of the bell. As we hear the bell, use this as a opening. An opening to reassociate with the body. moving our conscious awareness out of our mind, from our eyes, from our ears and our nose and our mouth, all those sensory inputs that exist from the neck up. Let's just allow that consciousness with each breath to slowly move into the body. Breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, bring the consciousness down with the breath. As we enter into our body in a conscious state, find those places in your body where you might be holding on to tension, those things that are making you feel stuck in one way of being, and bring the quietude to the machineries of resistance in your body and start to let them go. Simply asking the world for quietude. And being present for it. Thank you for joining this morning. Soon, you will be able to join in person. The tentative plan for now is when I return from my trip at the end of this month, I'll be going down to Arizona to be with family and friends and recuperate a bit. It's regenerating that energy that I need to regenerate. So when I return, our new offering, the Beside, it's a body healing space right next to Journey Home, right beside it, is a meditation hall, and it will be open daily, 8 a.m. meditations, open to the public. And I will be broadcasting those meditations on this platform. It's going to be different. It's going to look different. And we'll see how that works. But so if you are in the area and have the ability to come in person, I would encourage it if you can, because building the Sangha, building the collective of people meditating together, breathing together, and sharing these ideas and thoughts and moving ourselves into this level of understanding um, is so much more empowering, I think, than just the solo pursuit of meditation. Both of them are necessary. But there is some level where sharing that collective space together brings a different kind of healing and a different kind of healing to the world. And I'm excited to have that opening here. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all for taking the time this morning. That's all. Adiom.